Hi everyone, this is Johnny here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So Apple actually dropped a bomb, releasing the new MacBook Air with the M2 silicon chip. As far as I know, once this actually new MacBook Air M2, I'm just going to call it the M2 Air, was released, a particular model of the M1 Air was actually being removed. The higher tier of the M1 Air, the 8-core CPU with the 8-core GPU, and that comes with actually the 512 GB SSD internal memory. And of course, it's around the same price, alright, the new M2 Air. Alright, so something familiar is that you will see on the first line here, I just highlighted, it comes with 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU. So this is which it has replaced the M1 Air, and it's actually $100 cheaper. Just a little bit different is that this one is actually a 256 SSD. Right, it's a 256 GB SSD. Alright, so it's $100 cheaper, you get lesser memory, but probably some of you are actually thinking, should I get the M1 Air or should I get the M2 Air? Alright, so in this video, I'll just highlight some of the things for you to actually consider. Alright, so the first thing that I actually take note is that if I do a comparison, right, so from here, in terms of spec-wise, it's very clear that the screen size of M2 Air is slightly bigger, 13.6 inch versus 13.3. The display is also a little bit different. The M1 Air uses Retina display while the M2 Air uses Liquid Retina. These are the specs, alright, so for M2 Air, it can go up to 10-core GPU, it can go up to 24 GB of unified memory, which is the RAM. Right, no difference in terms of internal storage. Battery life is also the same. The users also Touch ID. So the new M2 Air also comes with Media Engine Accelerator. So it means that you can actually now better handle like 4K video, 8K video, which are in ProRes, etc, etc. So you can see here is that M2 Air actually has a brighter display, 100 nit brighter. Height-wise, alright, it's slightly it's thinner actually than the M1 Air, and that actually brings down its weight to 1.24 kilo. Considering that it comes with a new chip, it has the same level, it has the same battery life, alright. You can go up to the same maximum capacity in terms of internal storage. You can go up to more RAM, there's more, it can actually handle more GPU. Now instead of 720p, which is what I have on my M1 Air, it goes up to 1080p. It's a full HD. It has better sound system right now. It has 4 speakers, alright, with spatial audio. The headphone jack now, actually, it supports high impedance headphones. After looking at the specs between the M1 Air and the M2 Air, probably you have a lot of questions or some questions going through your mind like, hey, should I go for the M2 Air, which is the latest one, just released like 2 days ago, or should I go for the M1 Air, which has been around the market since 2020? I would say it's probably here are a few things for you to actually think it through. Alright, so if we look at CPU performance-wise, as far as I know, the increment of M2 over M1, from what I see so far, it's not a lot. CPU performance is only about up to 18% faster. Alright, so if you're someone who is actually currently you are using M1 for general work, Word documents, you do Excel, you do PowerPoint, and you do a little bit of emails and this kind of stuff, I would say that it doesn't make sense to actually upgrade to the M2 Air. But if you are from Windows, alright, like for me, I was a long time Windows user, and it took me quite a while to actually finally cave in and make the switch to actually Mac OS. A few of my friends were actually software engineers, and they actually have a lot of praise that wow, the MacBook Air alone with the M1 chip is actually enough. It's more than powerful enough for them to actually do programming and coding, software development. I was like, what? MacBook Air? Are you serious? Like, that has never happened before. right? So if you want something like you want to make the switch to Apple laptops, right? Let's say the MacBook Air, I would say is that the M1 Air is more than sufficient to handle general works, all right? Office works, emails, web browsing, Word document, PowerPoint, Excel, etc., etc. You don't really need the M2 Air because the performance increase is only up to 18%, which means to say is that, let's say for example, if it takes about 10 seconds for you to actually process a Word document, the M2 Air will only be maybe 1 or 2 seconds faster, or maybe 1 second or 1.5 seconds faster, which is insignificant, right? You won't really be able to tell the difference. But if you are actually thinking to use it for things like maybe video editing, you need it for 3D and this kind of stuff, then for me, I think that it would make more sense to actually get the M2 Air. Why is that? The thing is because on the M2, if you look at the stats again, the M2 actually has its own onboard hardware media engine, which is missing from the M1 Air. And I can actually share it with you from my own experiences that when I was trying to edit 4K video using the M1 Air, it's doable, but I would face lags. There would be constant lags, like maybe when I was scrubbing through. And by the way, I'm actually not using like Final Cut Pro, I'm actually using iMovie. So even when I'm using iMovie to actually edit a 4K video, I'm actually being faced with constant lag. Alright, like I'm scrubbing through a video, the entire laptop I will see the color ball, alright, the color bitch ball for a couple seconds, and then it will continue, a couple seconds, and it will continue. So this goes to show that if you want to do this kind of video editing, like maybe you want to do more high-res content like 4K, 8K, it would make more sense to actually get the M2 Air, right? But of course, if you want to look at longevity, okay, I would say both would be good, okay? But of course, if you want something that's really light, let's say for example, the second area to actually consider is that if you're someone who's always traveling, I would say firstly is that if you're always traveling, I would definitely recommend you to get the M2 Air. Firstly is that M2 Air is actually lighter. The M1 Air is about 1.3 kilo. The M2 Air I think is about 1.24. It's not to say that the M1 Air is heavy. The M1 Air is light. I actually traveled recently with the M1 Air to Vietnam and was very light, okay? It's lighter. Not only that, but the M2 Air is thinner as well. Overall, I would say the M2 Air is thinner, it's lighter, and not only that, is that the M2 Air has a few physical, technical bumps over the M1 Air. And of course, the third thing is as a student, alright, if you're actually a student studying digital art, right, a course related to digital art, or you're doing software engineering, right, you're learning about software engineering, you're learning engineering, you need to do a lot of 3D, you want to get something which gives you some of the performance of a MacBook Pro, but just that you don't really have the budget to get the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which has the M1 Pro or the M1 Max, right? Then I would say it would make absolute sense to actually get the M2 Air, because it has some of the performances, the good things of the M1 Pro MacBook Pro within the M2 Air. That's all we have. I hope that my sharing of whether is it M1 or M2 Air would actually help you to actually make a better decision, a more informed decision. If you like this video, smash the like button, but more importantly, subscribe to my channel and share this content with your friends who are considering to get the M2 Air. My name is Johnny, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.